While he was avoiding his eyes, I noticed the bulge of the broccoli that was visible. I don't know why, but I grabbed the broccoli directly with my hand. I started to squeeze it a little, but when that was the case, he didn't hold it any longer and revealed the broccoli. He lifted me to the dining table. The broccoli was now inside my trap. At first, it moved slowly back and forth. Oh, hi, were you here? I was just telling you what we've been through. Let me start from the beginning so that you can find out how things developed. My name is Lily. I am 54 years old. I have been widowed for the last 2 summers. My late husband, Alfred, was not exactly the man of my dreams. I know it sounds cruel, but let's be real. He was a difficult man stuck in his ways, and suffered from his own disappointments for years. It wasn't bad, just I'm tired of life. When he passed, to be honest, our marriage was more about duty than love after he died. I thought that part of my life was closed. I wasn't looking for anything or anyone. I spent my days tending to my small garden, knitting in the evenings, keeping up with the usual family gatherings. Then Liam came. Liam is my late husband's grandson from his first marriage. He is 28 years old. He is tall. He has these piercing green eyes and this quiet intensity about him. When he visited as a child, he was always polite but distant. Nevertheless, he came to stay for a few weeks that summer, a simple visit. He had stopped by on his way to his family in the countryside. The first few days passed without incident. Liam mostly kept to himself, exploring the nearby forests or reading books on the porch. I found myself watching him from the kitchen window, not in a strange way, just observing. There was something different about him. There was a sadness about him, as if he were searching for something. He could not name it. Started innocently enough. One afternoon, I was struggling with an old wooden fence that needed to be repaired. Liam offered to help. He didn't say much. He just picked up the tools and got to work. Watching him reminded me of a younger Alfred, strong, focused, determined. But where Alfred was always grumpy and distant, Liam was kind and attentive. As the days turned into weeks, we started spending more and more time together. He would sit on the porch with me in the evenings, sipping his tea as the sun sank below the horizon. We would talk about everything and nothing, and plans, my memories, the little things that make up a life. There was a comfort in his presence, a connection I hadn't felt in years. One afternoon, I decided to clean the attic, an area that had not been touched since Alfred's death. Dust was floating in the sun's rays as I sorted the old boxes. Liam appeared at the door, his shirt sticking to his skin from the summer heat. He offered to help. And before I could protest, he was at my side, lifting a heavy chest as if it had no weight. We found a box full of old photos. I couldn't stop smiling as I showed him the photos from my youth. He examined them carefully, stroking the edges of the marks with his fingers. "You're so beautiful," he said. When he looked up, there was something in his eyes that I couldn't understand, a mixture of curiosity, longing, and something deeper. The air between us grew heavy, thick, adorned with unspoken words. Then suddenly he kissed me, slowly but effectively, on the lips. It was wrong. I pulled back reflexively, but did I want it? I don't know. This time he must have noticed my hesitation because he pressed himself tightly to my lips, as if I had been waiting for this. I returned the kiss over and over again. It went on for about 5 minutes. And he made the first move. His hands were on my body. I was wearing a cream-colored dress. The sensation of the soft touches was climbing from my feet to my trap as the climb continued. The movements inside me turned into strange sounds coming from my mouth. When he heard those sounds, he didn't want to prolong it any further. The bulge of the package was obvious from the outside. I was betraying Alfred when you realized I was trying to pull away. He reached his finger into my trap after the energy I had in that moment. That idea gave way to a great desire. I told him to do it faster. He went faster and faster until I let out a scream that shook the entire house. I stood there as if nothing had happened and straightened my dress. When I got up from the floor, I noticed the wetness of the wood. It wasn't sweat. It was some other liquid. Later that evening, as I was making dinner, I couldn't help but feel his eyes on me. He sat at the kitchen table, his fingers tracing patterns on the wood. When I turned, our eyes met, and it was as if the room had shrunk. I dropped the knife in my hand, and he ran to help me. When I reached for the knife, his hand touched mine. The touch lasted only a second. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. Immersed myself in the vegetables, but I wasn't okay. Something was moving inside me, something I couldn't name. "We can't keep doing this," I said, my voice barely audible. He didn't answer. He just stood there, his expression unreadable. Then, without a word, he approached, closing the distance between us. While avoiding his eyes, I noticed the bulge of the broccoli visible above his pants. I don't know why, but I grabbed the broccoli directly with my hand. I started to squeeze a little when this was the case. He didn't hold it any longer and revealed the broccoli. He lifted me to the dining table. The broccoli was now inside its trap. At first, it moved slowly back and forth. Its effect on both of us was like waves of vibration. It made the wine glasses on the table sway. The kisses were like vines enveloping each other. Our bodies were two bodies, but at that moment they were one. Soul, at that moment it didn't matter who it was. We were both like two strangers enjoying themselves. Then my breathing quickened. I understood the vibration in the broccoli and said into me, hot drops were flowing through the trap with great excitement. He pulled me to his embrace and said, "Inyogi." Then he took a deep breath. So did I. The morning light was soft, filtering through the curtains like a gentle reminder of everything that had happened. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind filled with thoughts. I could hear Liam moving silently around the room, his boots scraping on the floor. I turned my head to see him, sitting on the edge of the bed, his back to me. His broad shoulders were tense, and he was sitting by the door, his bag already packed. My chest felt tight. "Are you leaving?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, his hands pausing as he tied his shoelaces. He didn't turn around. "I think I should go back," he said softly. I sat up slowly, the sheet sliding down my back. My throat was dry, but I managed to ask why. Finally, he turned to me, his green eyes, always intense, looked softer now. "Lily, you know why," he said sadly, his voice full of quiet determination. "This can't go on. It's not right. And you said it yourself." I felt like I couldn't breathe. Yes, I had said that last night. I had tried to convince both of us that this wasn't something we could continue. But now, with him standing there ready to leave, I wasn't so sure. "But what if I don't want you to leave?" The words slipped out of my mouth before I could stop them. He froze, his eyes locked on mine for a moment. It felt like time had stopped. Then he crossed the room and knelt in front of me so we were face to face, "Lily," he said, his voice breaking just enough to let me know this was as hard for him as it was for me. "I care about you more than I should, but this isn't fair to you or to me. It's going to hurt both of us in the end." I reached out, my fingers brushing against his cheek. "It already hurts," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I thought I was done feeling this way, Liam. I thought that part of me was gone, but you brought it back. You made me feel alive again." He closed his eyes, leaning into my touch for the briefest moment before taking my hand in his. His warmth grounded me, even as his words cut through me. "You've made me feel things I didn't know I could," he said. "But staying here, letting this go on, it will only make it harder for both of us." I nodded, even as tears welled up in my eyes. I knew he was right, but that didn't make it any easier. "So that's it?" I asked, my voice slow and deliberate, like he was fighting every instinct to stay. He grabbed his bag and slung it over his shoulder, pausing at the door. "I'll go," he said, his voice soft, almost hesitant. "But, Lily, if you ever need me, you know where to find me." And, just like that, he was gone. The door clicked shut behind him, and the weight of the silence settled over the room. I stayed there for a long time, staring at the empty space where he had just been. The house felt so much quieter now, so much emptier. But as I sat there, something unexpected began to stir inside me. Yes, Liam had left. And yes, it hurt more than I wanted to admit. But he had also left me with something else. A reminder of who I was, of what I could still feel, still want. I got up into the window, watching him disappear down the path toward the forest. My hand pressed against the glass, and a bittersweet smile tugged at my lips. "Goodbye, Liam." I whispered, "and thank you." In that moment, I knew I would carry this with me. This brief, impossible connection that had changed me in ways I couldn't fully understand. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.